Hello, hi. Welcome again to another uh, episode, show, series, whatever you want to call it. Another live broadcast that I'm doing every night at about this time, right? There's no particularly disciplined time to say I'm going to be on this particular time, this particular day. But like I said, I'm going to try to do it every night. And I know I did not do it last night or on Friday night because I was just gathering my thoughts. So today is 19th of April, right? Yeah, 19th of April. It's just like a day like any other day, like every day. Nothing really has changed in the world. Nothing really looks like it's going to be changing. But today is a different change for me. Today is the exact day that 10 months ago my wife passed away, the date. And I remember what we were doing last April and so on and so forth. It has taken me a while to move on forward with my life. Until today, I was not able to look at any of my wife's pictures or our pictures together because until I met my wife, I never really took pictures. Although I was acting and modeling and everything else, I just didn't like taking pictures of myself. My wife, well, I never liked taking pictures of myself outside of the professional context, without lighting, without makeup and everything else. My wife made me love me for who I was, for who I am, without all the glare. And she took so many pictures, so many pictures. And I did not touch her phone until today. Because as I am moving towards my journey of healing and moving forward, I realized that there are parts of my past which I do not want to visit for fear that I would break down. I still have to do it, right? I still have to do it, still have to check it out, so that I know who I was, I know who I am now. Without those pains, those journeys, I won't be who I am now. So, moving on forward to what we are living with as a whole, the whole world right now. Doesn't matter if you come from Zimbabwe, if you're coming from Malaysia, if you're coming from Singapore, if you're coming from Cebu, if you're coming from Lapu-Lapu, if you're coming from Mindanao, Leyte, if you're coming from Alaska, we're all locked down. We are all facing the same problems. A virus that might bring us death, or might bring our loved ones death. So today's topic is going to be about the greatest fear, or the final stop in everybody's life, that is known as death. Doesn't matter what religion you are in, yeah? Your religion might say there's an afterlife. Your religion might say there's reincarnation. Your religion might say there's damnation. But for everyone who's alive today, we know that death is the end point of the chapter. There's no more sequels after that. There could be prequels, stories that's going to be told about your life after you die, but it's the end. It's nothing after that. So I would like to share a little story about how the story of death moves you in this life. So a long time ago, there was a very wise man that I came to know. I'm no longer in contact with this wise man. Growing up, I think I was about maybe 15, 16. And this person was telling me a story about relationships in life. And the metaphor was, life is like a train ride. So for those of you who don't know what a train ride is, a train ride is how people used to travel from one point to another. And it was the preferred mode of transportation before. Right? And a train has many little compartments. Of course, the better compartments are in the first class, second class, economy class, etc., etc., etc. So this person was telling the story about life. It's like, so life is like a train ride. Everybody has their own train ride, right? We get on to the train When our station has arrived, we get onto it, and the train goes on, station after station after station. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And sometimes, in some stations, some people get into the train with us, and some of these people, they sit with us, they have fun with us, we become friends, sometimes more than friends, and we move on forward. But when this person's stations have arrived, they bid us goodbye and they leave. And our journey continues until we reach our end destination or our end station, whatever that station is. Now, that this wise man told me the story. He said, if you are really lucky, right? If you are a lucky individual, then you might have this one person who will follow you all the way to your end station. And some of us are lucky, some of us do not have that luck, but we do meet a lot of people who come into our train compartments as we move on to our stations. My mom was one such person who was part of my journey. My dad, my late wife, of course. Now, everybody I've mentioned is late. They're not late for something. They're just late as in they've passed away. So the journey goes on. The same thing that's happening with this COVID-19 thing right now. Today is the 19th of April, and in most countries, the quarantine ban is supposedly to be lifted off by the end of this month or latest by mid of next month. So again, whether you want it or not, the train is still moving forward. The train is what we call life, right? It just keeps moving on forward. Either you come out of this a grown person who has elevated your thinking, you're not woke, all right? I don't like the term woke. Somebody who's seeing life differently, right? Who's able to get through his or her own hypocrisies, bigotries, right? Small notion minds, and evolve beyond all that. And come out on the other end when you arrive at your station, so that you will be able to attract higher quality cabin members who will join you in your train ride to the next stop. I would like to read from another chapter of my book, the chapter called The Mother. Now, the chapter of the mother. Your thoughts only materialize when there is action. Otherwise, everything will just be fantasies and illusions. Let me give you an example of a person whom I know personally and how her desire of wanting something driven only by passion, she managed to achieve it, even if it is only after 18 years. The person's flame of passion and desire was so strong that she managed to pull out of all her life's troubles with only sheer persistence and perseverance up to the last. I know a lady. In this context, she was in her early 50s. She came from a family of 9 brothers and sisters and a very old-fashioned father. Their family was not rich. As a child, they lived in a simple wooden house, and every day on her way to school, this lady would pass by beautiful houses. She would imagine living in them every day. She would cut out newspaper prints, paste them on the walls of her wooden house, and imagine that she was living in a big house with a nice color television set. She grew up amongst much difficulty and great family instability as she struggled to finish her high school. At the age of 15, her mastery of the English language was so poor because she lived in a village where no one spoke the language. Of course, with the financial challenges, she couldn't even afford to buy reading materials in English, but she did finish high school and she had an ambition to be the principal of a school. But alas, due to some tragic family misfortune, her family moved and they could not send her to further her studies. Disappointed but not dampened, her spirit was still flaming fiery desire. At the young age of 23, she got married. She moved to the city with her new husband, and with her desire so deeply rooted within her, she started teaching the neighborhood kids. No one came to help her. A young bride with a young husband who barely made ends meet. But she still went through and throughout her pregnancy until she gave birth. She finally placed a down payment on her very own house 8 years later. Of course, the chapter goes on and on and on and on and on. And then it talks about how this woman at the age of 45 went back to school to get her diploma and started her own school and etc. etc. This woman was my mother. So I remember when I was doing my final high school exams, I would be staying up late at night to read on my reading materials, on my textbooks and so on and so forth. And my mother would stay up together with me, not to help me, because she would be reading on her reading materials for her school, which she goes every day. So what happens is she would go to school every day in the morning. Oh no, on weekends. On weekdays she would go to work every day, and etc. So again, my mom was a very crucial, influential person of my life journey at that point in time. Very, very influential. So I've always had very strong women influence me and have always been part of my life. I've always wondered, like, why do I get women who argue with me all the time, right? But it's because that was my mold, right? I'm attracted to very powerful, strong women who can stand on their own. And when I met my wife, who was a person who was like that, I mean, me and my wife, we loved hard, but we also fought hard. She was her own person. As a matter of fact, she edited my book and had it published. Again, same thing. My mom came. When my mom left, or when she passed away, my wife came about into my life. I met my wife 2 years before my mom passed, and then my wife came. And of course, me and my wife, we had a great 10 years together, and she died again, I told you. It's going to be 1 year and 2 more months. And my train of my life is still moving on forward. I'm not looking for passengers to fill up the cabin right now. That's not it. But I'm sharing this story with you so that you can understand that regardless of what happens in this journey of you being quarantined in this time period, the train will arrive to its station. How you continue to build your mind, your thoughts, the way you communicate, the way you understand, your maturity determines how you will arrive at your next station and the kind of people that you'll be attracting with you into your cabin as you move on towards your station. So for people who are married, I'm not passing advice, I'm not telling you what to do with your life. For people who are married, appreciate the company that you have. Regardless whether you hate your husband or wife, or whether you love your husband and wife, that's fine. But appreciate them for what they have. Because for whatever conflicts they may have caused you, you have become a better person, regardless. If you have family members who are good or bad or whatever it is, regardless of whatever situations they've caused you, you are still here. So this situation of us all being locked up, whatever it is pushing us to evolving into something better. if we let it. Otherwise, like what Winston Churchill said, do not let a good, I forgot. He would say, do not let a good conspiracy, or do not let a good situation go to waste. Something along those lines. Yeah. So do not let a good challenge go to waste. It's not great that people are dying because of the disease. I'm not saying that at all. But it is what it is. It is a challenge. Our generation has never had serious challenges. Now we do. Let's take that and use it as a fuel to be something else beyond what our academic qualifications say we are, beyond what our bank balances say we are, beyond what our cars that we drive say we are, beyond our passports, beyond our spouses, beyond our connections, beyond our political affiliations. What are we beyond all this? We may have another 3 more weeks, 4 more weeks maximum to figure this out before the world starts running again. Don't let this opportunity go to waste. Until tomorrow, I bid you farewell and a good night.